U.S. officials be this definitive about the security threats that threaten fixed anywhere in the world. But this has always been something the president has pointed to as to why he wanted to stick to the obviously because is there a tangible difference in what you guys are seeing or had seen over the course of the last several days that makes this moment different than what the president was citing a week ago or 10 days ago?
Well, I can't always, I know you're not asking me to, but I can't clearly get into specific details from here. But what I think the reason we put this out publicly in the way we did is because yesterday there was a attack by terrorists that killed 13 members of the U.S. Military. And it's important for us as the government to be clear about what threat our U.S. forces are facing on the ground as they continue to implement the mission. And that threat is acute. It is ongoing. Our troops are still in danger, and they are taking the steps they are taking to save lives and evacuate people because of their commitment to the mission. And we felt it was important for people to understand that. Go ahead.
Thanks, Jen. I also wanted to ask you about the statement you put out. You said that in light of yesterday's attack, the troops there are taking maximum force protection measures at Kabul airport. What resources are available to them that they didn't have yesterday? They have the same number of troops and the same amount of equipment.
Any resources that they need and they request from the president, they will be granted. But I'm not going to get into additional details.
And then I'm also wondering if the president has any plans to speak to the families of the fallen service members.
Yeah, so how this process works is the next of kin notifications would, of course, happen by the Department of Defense, typically in person to next of kin. I believe they gave an update on that this morning, conveyed that that process is ongoing. The president wouldn't then make a call or reach out until that process is completed. And it would be up to the next of kin and the families to determine if they are prepared to receive a call from the President of the United States. And I think it's important to note that this may be the worst day of their lives, and they may or may not feel they're ready to talk to the United States or they want to talk to the President of the United States, and that's their choice. But I expect once any calls are completed, we'll provide you all an update.
And then finally, I want to know if the White House has any reaction to the swath of Republican lawmakers who are now calling on the president to resign over this.
Well, Nancy, I have to say that seeing some of this occur or be called for or be put out on Twitter, the backdrop here is the U.S. men and women of the military deployed on the ground are bravely continuing to implement a mission to save lives on the ground. American citizens, Afghan partners, many people that some of these same individuals are calling for us to evacuate. Yesterday, they lost 13 of their own, and the president made absolutely clear that we are going to hunt down, go after, and kill the terrorists who are responsible. Everyone should be supportive of that.
I think now's not the time.
He shouldn't be leading the charge. I just think that he shouldn't be leading the charge if that's going to go down. If you're going to go after the Taliban, I don't think he should be leading the charge. I think he needs to step back, way back, like have several seats. That's what he needs to do in the back of the class. That's what I think. Biden president teetering amid calls to resign, potential investigations over U.S. deaths in Afghanistan. Biden slammed for borderline treason over giving names of Americans and Afghan allies to tally. Why? Yeah. What? Wow. President Biden is being attacked from all sides after the deaths of at least 13 American service members Thursday and ISIS-K terrorists at Kabul airport, with calls for his impeachment and resignation for some. The outrage over American deaths Thursday was compounded by news that the U.S. gave the Taliban names of Americans and Afghan allies it wanted to evacuate. The political crisis for Biden follows a foreign policy crisis in Afghanistan after the Taliban swept into power as American troops withdrew from the country on Biden's orders, and even Democrats are criticizing the president's actions. Prior to yesterday's bombings, images out of Afghanistan contribute to plunging approval ratings for the president. Although it's clear to me that we could not continue to put American service members in danger for unwinnable war, I also believe that the evacuation process appears to have been egregiously mishandled. Representative Susan Wild, Democrat of Pennsylvania, tweeted Thursday. In order to move forward, we need answers and accountability regarding the cascading failures that led us to this moment. Critics argue Biden should have left some troops in Afghanistan to keep brutal Taliban regime from coming into power, or that he should have more strategically handled the drawdown to prevent frantic and deadly evacuations. The White House counters that the withdrawal would be messy no matter what, and that the aircraft out of the country has saved many lives. According to the White House, 12,500 people were evacuated from Kabul between 3 a.m. Thursday and 3 a.m. Friday, including 8,500 on U.S. military flights. This is why, from the outset, I repeatedly said this mission was extraordinarily dangerous, and why I've been so determined to limit the duration of this mission, Biden said Thursday. I will just say this. This is a fake government, because no president would be this stupid to make this call. He has handlers. That's all I'm going to say. He has handlers. Call me a conspiracy nut, go ahead. But guess what? JFK also said something about secret societies and shadow governments. And to pull this move, I think that you have to be working for somebody to purposely make this bad decision, because something down the line is supposed to happen, and it can't happen without this type of fallout. So it's orchestrated chaos. That's what I believe. Okay. In reality, if we had a real government and with real power and not controlled by the few, no president would make such a dumb move like this. No president would make a dumb move to make deals with terrorists known to not keep their word, brutalize women and children, men, women, and children. Okay, they'll be doing their best to have a good reputation before the American people, and would want to go down in history as a maverick and a tough guy, staring down terrorists, giving them ultimatums: you do this or else. That's it. And protect the Afghanistan people. But we don't live in that type of world. The cascading crisis the president faces are happening more than a year before the midterm elections, and his political stock could certainly recover. But many in Congress are calling Biden to be held responsible for what they said is a botched withdrawal effort, even as go as far to call for the president's resignation or impeachment. Well, Joe, you've proven yourself incapable of handling your job as commander-in-chief. You've ignored your advisors, rushed this haphazard withdrawal without appropriate conditions, and before evacuating our citizens and friends. Your ineptitude has now cost at least 12 American lives. Republican Tom Rice, Republican of South Carolina, said Thursday, all options are on the table to hold the president accountable for this tragic chain of avoidable events. Resign and turn the job over to someone who can handle it. Yeah, pretty much. Rice is one of the Republicans who voted to impeach former President Trump earlier this year. Okay. Among the other Republicans who called for Biden to resign are Senator Josh Hawley, Republican of, I believe, Minnesota; Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina; House GOP Conference Chair Elisa Stafford, Republican of New York; Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee; Republican Marriott Millers Meeks, Republican of Iowa. But beyond calls for Biden to resign or even be impeached, the president is sure to face nagging congressional investigations into the withdrawal. Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman Mark Warner, Democrat of Virginia, said last week his committee will investigate the administration's handling of the Afghan pullout. Senate Armed Services Committee Chairman Jack Reed, Democrat of Rhode Island, said his committee will do the same. And any congressional oversight will likely only get harsher if Republicans take back the House or Senate in 2022. Once we confirm the safety of our citizens, my next objective is to ensure we have accountability for the grave mistakes that have been made by this administration and the leadership at the Department of Defense, which have created one of the biggest foreign policy failures in decades. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, Republican California, said Thursday. McCarthy said he will make sure we have complete transparency on intelligence failures and the botched withdrawal that happened on the president's watch. Adding to the outrage on Thursday was the revelation that Biden administration gave the Taliban names of Americans and Afghan allies to allow through checkpoints into Kabul airport, which many said amounted to the handing a kill list to terrorists. A senior source on Capitol Hill told Fox News that the list was not every single person in the country, but rather a set of names whenever they wanted a specific group to come through. The source said that this created problems with the Taliban, both blocking people it knew were going to the airport and denying entry to others who were qualified because they knew that those people were not a priority for the U.S. Those people, the source said, were essentially doomed. I can't tell you with any certainty that there's been a list of names. There may have been, Biden said at the Thursday press conference, but I know of no circumstance. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist and that here's the names of 12 people that are coming. Let's get them through. It could very well have happened. Tweet from Dan Crenshaw. It's true. This qualifies for borderline treason. We need to find out who is responsible for giving the Taliban a hit list, and they need to go to prison. Look, man, this is oh, you can't make this up, man. You can't make this up. Tweet from Lara Singleman. U.S. officials gave the Taliban a list of names of U.S. citizens, green card holders, and Afghan allies to grant entry into the outer perimeter of the city's airport, prompting outrage behind the scenes from lawmakers and military officials. This is unacceptable. Yet another Biden decision endangering Americans and our allies. We deserve answers as to who made this decision and why. GOP Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel said in reaction to the sharing of names. If true, this qualifies for borderline treason. Republican Dan Crenshaw read that already. The situation in Afghanistan remains tenuous with American troops still on the ground at the Kabul airport, and many Americans and Afghans will still to be evacuated. A source briefed on the situation in Kabul told Fox News that despite White House reassurances that evacuations are continuing, it's almost certainly that some Americans and many allies will be left behind in Kabul as the president aims to stick to his August 31st deadline to have all Americans out. He needs to be, forced to change that rule. And if it takes 2 months to get them, 2 extra months to get all Americans and Afghan allies out, so be it. And hold him to it. And if he acts, silence him. If he even opens his mouth to talk, silence him or face resignation. But once again, this is a, fake puppet government, and not going to happen. Biden said Thursday that the government will aim to continue to get Americans out of Afghanistan even after August 31st, but it's not clear how that would happen if it's going to cede the Kabul airport, the only place in Afghanistan not controlled by the Taliban. Some have warned stranded Americans after August 31st could lead to a version of a hostage crisis for the president. Yeah, he's going to make a stupid decision. He's going to just make more stupid decisions. That's how I see it. And America's screwed, basically. That's how I see it. All right. And we have a clown in office. Trump, you think Trump was bad? Biden was worse. Okay. All right. Ending the stream. Tell me what you think in the comments. I mean, it does make America look bad because you had the French, you had the British. They're doing all what they can to get their allies and the Afghan allies out of Afghanistan, while Biden is just saying, no, don't do anything. Sad, man. Sad. Like, share, comment, and subscribe later.